There's a story actually of how he marries Mary Rook, and this is a little bit involved, but this is one of the very few pieces that has come down to us, and I think it might be worth reading this. You guys cool if I read a bit of Owen for you? I mean, you're saying yes now, but Owen, Owen is very challenging, and this is a little bit wordy, but this is the letter he writes to Mary Rook to propose to her, and her response. So if you ever wondered, you unmarried men here tonight, how this should look like, how to do this, don't follow Owen. I'm going to read it verbatim. I'm not embellishing this at all. It says, the purpose of this discourse laid out, the major points therein established, the sundry benefits, the vices thereby abstained from much derided. Bearing in mind that the covenant of marriage is not to be entered into, as the scripture tells us, inadvisedly or lightly, but rather with all reverence, according to the sundry commandments given for the mutual benefit of all persons, yet which can bind no man, but that he take upon himself that yoke. I submit the following discourse for your due consideration, with the exceptional proofs thereunto belonging, wherein you might be made aware of my intentions in this regard. You can feel the exuberance of romance. You're like, man, Hallmark needs to make a movie or maybe some kind of television series, right? Valentine's Day special. Back to Owen. First, marriage be for the furtherance of the mutual joy in which those persons who are married partake. Secondly, that it might affect the greater help and comfort of the same wherein they may thereby experience both prosperity and adversity with no decrease of faith. Third, that it might be for the increase of that procreation which was established by God upon his first covenant with man, for the compassing of which end such persons ought to be joined together in holy matrimony. It's almost at this point like he's trying to convince her that marriage is legitimate, like marriage is a thing. He says, now follow my expansions upon those points before stated. The mutual joy which is spoken of by means of allegory in the Canticles, that's the old English word for the Song of Solomon, the Canticles. The mystical union betwixt Christ and his church, spoken of by Paul in his discourse to the Ephesians. The many covenantal benefits made efficacious to those who take part. Such things we must not deny. That he who possesses a happy wife doth, as spake some philosopher, possess also a happy life. See how many points we have here. We've got a lot of points. I'm going to just skip down to the bottom. You can find this later on and read this if you want. We await now such sundry answers as you see fit to grant us. Why he's speaking the plural, I don't know. Maybe he had a friend help him draft this. I don't know. That we may hereby direct to a course that will be for the mutual salvation of both parties. So here is her reply. This is where it gets good because she is of a certain class and obviously has a good sense of humor. She says, my dearest John, I scarcely understand this letter you've sent to me. Indeed, she said, I scarcely understand half the things you say, be they ever so exalted. Nevertheless, if it is marriage that you seek, I'll submit myself to this yoke, as you so artfully call it. Yoke was his word, right? If you will but promise me 3 things upon pain of your eternal soul. First, that you should never speak Latin in my presence again. Second, that you should on one occasion per week pry yourself from your books long enough to change a nappy. And third, that you should find some means of sustenance beyond your tomes. It's hard to make a living as an author. For such things as you write are more fit for the shelves of Duke Humphrey's library than the hands of the common man. And if they be our only source of sustenance, shall be the making of our eternal poverty. This is my reply. May heaven help us. Very smart, and they were in due course married. And if you want more of that flavour, go and look that up and read the fullness of Owen's essay to convince her to marry him. She had quite a pluck, and she needed it because she was going to be married to a man that would be a man of his times, that would engage in some of the most drastic events politically, religiously, as far as the church are concerned, and would spend his time in the books, in the tomes, publishing material that we would be reading 400 years later on. That is a very unique thing to say. There are very few authors of which that can be said of.